First Contact Fiasco. The human expedition fleet, Pathfinder Division, drifted through the outer reaches of the Andromeda Arm, a collection of 12 vessels that looked like they had been cobbled together from spare parts found in a cosmic junkyard. Leading the fleet was the HSS Audacity, a retrofitted cargo hauler that had been modified so many times it barely resembled its original design. Its hull was a patchwork of different metals, some sections gleaming with fresh nanopolymer coatings, while others bore the scars of multiple repairs. Captain Elena Reyes stood on the bridge, her weathered hands resting on a console that was at least 3 different generations of technology, merged into one functional unit. The view screen showed the vast emptiness ahead, occasionally flickering with static. Another item on the ever-growing maintenance list. Gravimetric disturbance detected, Captain, announced Lieutenant Park from the sensor station. Something big is coming in hot. Elena nodded, unsurprised. The Pathfinder Division had been pushing deeper into unexplored space for months, cataloging resources and mapping potential colonization sites. They'd known they'd eventually run into someone, or something. Battle stations, but keep weapons cold, she ordered. Let's not start a war on our first day making new friends. The bridge crew moved with practiced efficiency despite their mismatched uniforms. Some wore the standard blue jumpsuits of the United Earth Fleet, while others had personalized their attire with patches, additional pockets, or reinforced panels. The space before them shimmered as 5 massive vessels emerged from what appeared to be some form of dimensional gateway. Each ship was identical, perfectly symmetrical crystalline structures that gleamed with an inner light, their surfaces unmarred by any visible seams or imperfections. They formed a perfect pentagon formation that screamed military precision. "That's impressive," muttered Elena's XO, Commander Liam Chen, letting out a low whistle. "And intimidating as hell." The largest of the crystalline ships, positioned at the front of the formation, was easily 20 times the size of the Audacity. It gleamed like a massive diamond catching starlight from a dozen directions at once. "We're being scanned," Park reported, frowning at his console. "Comprehensive sweep. They're looking at everything from hull composition to our breakfast menus." "Let them look," Elena replied, straightening her posture. "Open all non-restricted databases. Show them we've got nothing to hide." "Incoming transmission," announced the communications officer. "Visual and audio." "On screen," Elena ordered, quickly running a hand through her short gray hair. The view screen flickered, and an alien face appeared. The being had iridescent scales covering the elongated face with 4 eyes arranged in a diamond pattern. 2 slits where a nose might be flared slightly, and when it spoke, rows of perfectly uniform teeth were visible. "This is High Commander Vexthar of the 7th Armada of the Galactic Hegemony," the alien announced in flawless English, its voice resonating with a musical quality. "Your vessels have entered sovereign hegemony space. Identify yourselves and prepare to be evaluated for protectorate status." Elena blinked, then stepped forward. "This is Captain Elena Reyes of the Human Expedition Fleet, Pathfinder Division. We were unaware this sector had been claimed. Our star charts show it as unclaimed space." The alien's upper eyes narrowed slightly. "Your charts are outdated. The glorious hegemony has expanded its benevolent protection to this sector as of the last celestial alignment. Your species is unknown to our records. State your homeworld and technological classification." Elena glanced at Chen, who shrugged slightly. "We're from Earth, in the Sol system. As for our technological classification, I'm not sure what scale you're using." The alien's head tilted. "Primitive or advanced propulsion, energy generation capabilities, weapons systems, these determine your species' placement within the hegemony's protectorate hierarchy." "We've got a bit of everything," Elena replied honestly. "Some old tech, some new innovations. We're pretty resourceful." The alien seemed to stiffen. "Your vessels appear haphazard. Are these representative of your species' engineering capabilities?" Elena felt a flash of defensiveness but kept her voice level. Our ships are functional and adaptable. We build for practicality and sustainability over aesthetics. I see, Vexthar replied, making the words sound like a diagnosis of terminal illness. The hegemony will evaluate your species and determine appropriate integration protocols. Your vessels will now be brought aboard our carrier for inspection. Please power down all systems to facilitate the process. Whoa, hold on, Elena said, raising a hand. We haven't agreed to any inspection or integration. We're just passing through on an exploratory mission. All four of the aliens' eyes blinked simultaneously. Agreement is not required. The hegemony's protection is universally beneficial. Resistance would indicate primitive thinking and necessitate a more direct approach to integration. Elena pressed her lips together, choosing her next words carefully. With all due respect, High Commander, we're not looking for protection. We appreciate the offer, but we'll continue on our way. That is not an option, Vexthar stated flatly. Your technological level appears insufficient for true independence. The hegemony has cataloged and integrated 372 species. It is the natural order of the galaxy. Commander Chen leaned close to Elena's ear. They're powering up some kind of tractor technology. Targeting calculations initiated. Elena nodded slightly before addressing the alien again. Look, we're peaceful explorers, but we don't submit to forced boarding. Perhaps we could arrange a diplomatic meeting. Diplomatic protocols are initiated after integration. Vexthar interrupted. Your vessels will now be secured. A visible beam of energy extended from the largest crystalline ship toward the Audacity. Instead of pulling the human vessel closer, however, the beam seemed to disperse around it, creating a brief shimmer in the space between them before dissipating entirely. Vexthar's eyes widened slightly. Interesting. Your defensive capabilities exceed initial assessment. Recalibrating approach. Elena turned to her tactical officer with a raised eyebrow. We didn't do anything, Captain, the young woman replied with a shrug. Our adaptive shielding is running on standard settings. High Commander, Elena addressed the alien again. Perhaps we've gotten off on the wrong foot here. We're not refusing communication or even trade relations. We're just not interested in being integrated. Irregular, Vexthar murmured, seemingly consulting something off-screen. Your species requires further study. Prepare to receive a delegation. Before Elena could respond, the view screen showed a small shuttle detaching from the largest crystalline ship and heading toward the Audacity. They're sending 12 individuals, Park reported from the sensor station. Reading various equipment, but nothing that registers as immediate weaponry. Meet them in Docking Bay 3, Elena ordered. Standard first contact protocols. Security team on standby, but keep it friendly. 20 minutes later, Elena stood in the docking bay watching as the crystalline shuttle maneuvered through the magnetic containment field with precise movements. It settled onto the deck with barely a sound, its surface shimmering with the same inner light as the larger vessels. A seam appeared in the shuttle's smooth surface, widening into a doorway from which emerged 6 beings similar to Vexthar, accompanied by what appeared to be mechanical assistants. The aliens were dressed in identical form-fitting garments that seemed to be made of the same crystalline material as their ships. Captain Reyes, the lead alien said with a slight bow, I am Assessment Officer Lyertav. We will now begin cataloging your species attributes for proper integration into the hegemony. Elena forced a smile. Welcome aboard the Audacity. While I'm happy to give you a tour and answer questions, I want to be clear that we're still not agreeing to any integration. Lyertav blinked all 4 eyes. Catalog first, determination later. Please direct us to your command center, engineering facilities, and biological databases. I can show you our public areas, Elena countered, but restricted sections remain restricted, as I'm sure you understand. Inefficient, Lyertav stated. The hegemony requires comprehensive assessment. One of the mechanical assistants moved forward, extending what looked like a scanning device. Before it could activate, Chief Engineer Malik stepped forward, his massive frame blocking its path. Mind pointing that somewhere else. he asked, his deep voice friendly but firm. Some of our systems get a bit tetchy around unauthorized scans. The mechanical assistant froze, then retracted the device. Lyertav's head tilted in what seemed like confusion. Your technology appears primitive, yet you exhibit unusual resistance capabilities. Explain. Elena shrugged. Human ingenuity. We adapt. This is inefficient, Lyertav repeated. The glorious hegemony has perfected all technological paths. Your adaptations are unnecessary and likely inferior. They work for us, Elena replied simply. Now, would you like that tour, or would you prefer to return to your ship? The alien delegation followed Elena through the corridors of the Audacity, their expressions growing increasingly perplexed as they observed the ship's interior. Panels of different materials covered the walls, some sections sporting exposed conduits that had been rerouted for efficiency rather than aesthetics. Crew members of various ethnicities and ages moved purposefully through the ship, many stopping to stare curiously at the visitors. Your propulsion system uses fusion, Lyertav asked as they passed engineering, where the distinctive hum of the reactor could be heard. Among other things, Malik replied cryptically, we've got a few tricks up our sleeves. Your species lacks uniformity, another alien observed, watching the diverse crew. Even your garments display individuality rather than functional optimization. We value diversity, Elena explained. Different perspectives lead to creative solutions. As they continued the tour, the aliens became increasingly agitated, consulting their devices and whispering among themselves. Finally, in the mess hall, Lyertav confronted Elena directly. Your vessel defies categorization, the alien stated. It combines primitive manufacturing with advanced theoretical applications. Your crew lacks proper hierarchical indicators. Your systems appear redundant and inefficient, yet demonstrate unexpected resilience. The hegemony protocols cannot properly categorize such contradictions. Elena smiled. Well, that's humans for you. We're full of surprises. Surprises are inefficient, Lyertav insisted. The hegemony has optimized all aspects of galactic civilization. Your species requires significant restructuring before integration. Or, Elena suggested, you could recognize that we're doing just fine our own way, and we could establish diplomatic relations as equals instead. The alien delegation froze simultaneously, as if the very concept was incomprehensible. Impossible, Lyertav finally said. The hegemony's hierarchical structure is based on technological advancement and species optimization. All species find their proper place. Then I guess we'll have to agree to disagree, Elena replied. Because humans don't find their place in someone else's structure. We make our own way. Before Lyertav could respond, an alarm sounded throughout the ship. Commander Chen's voice came over the intercom. Captain to the bridge. We've got company. Calculated chaos. When Elena returned to the bridge, the alien delegation following closely behind, the view screen showed a new development. 3 massive vessels had appeared at the edge of the system. Dark, angular ships covered in what appeared to be barbed protrusions, a stark contrast to the crystalline perfection of the hegemony fleet. The Vexcar Dominion, Lyertav whispered, 4 eyes widening. Ancient enemies of the hegemony. Elena glanced at the alien. Friends of yours. The Dominion seeks to disrupt the perfect order of the hegemony, Lyertav explained, voice tight. They are chaos bringers, destroyers of harmony. On the view screen, the dark ships moved with surprising speed toward the hegemony vessels, which had begun to rearrange into a defensive formation. We're receiving a transmission from the hegemony flagship, Park announced. High Commander Vexthar appeared on screen, scales slightly paler than before. Human vessel, the hegemony is engaging hostile forces. Your assessment is temporarily suspended. Maintain your position and do not interfere. Before Elena could respond, the screen switched to show a new alien face. Dark purple skin stretched over a skeleton-like visage, with 6 eyes arranged in a circle and multiple mandibles instead of a mouth. Primitive vessels, the new alien growled, mandibles clicking. The Vexcar Dominion claims this sector. Surrender or be destroyed alongside the hegemony weaklings. The screen went blank. Alina turned to Leartav, who seemed frozen in place. I'm guessing these Dominion folks aren't big on diplomacy either, she asked dryly. The Dominion consumes all in its path, Leartav replied solemnly. They will destroy your vessels without hesitation. Elena turned to her crew. Battle stations. All ships in defensive formation Delta. Let's not take sides just yet, but be ready for anything. As the Pathfinder Division ships moved into position, the space between the Hegemony and Dominion fleets erupted with weapons fire. Beams of intense light shot from the crystalline ships, while the dark vessels responded with what appeared to be gravitational distortion weapons that warped space itself around their targets. Their technology is impressive, Chen commented, watching the battle unfold. And completely different approaches, Malik added from his engineering station. The Hegemony uses focused energy projection, while the Dominion manipulates fundamental forces. Fascinating contrast. Elena noticed Leartav staring at the human crew in confusion. You analyze rather than fear, the alien asked. Understanding your situation is the first step to surviving it, Elena replied. Speaking of which, Lieutenant Park, what are our options here? Park studied his console. Both fleets outgun us, Captain, but they're focused on each other for now. We could use the battle as cover to slip away. Running would prove your species' inferiority, Leartav interjected. Or our common sense, Elena countered. But retreating isn't really our style either. She tapped her console, opening a channel to the other Pathfinder ships. All vessels, prepare jump drives but hold position. Let's see how this plays out. On the view screen, it was clear that Hegemony forces were taking heavy damage. Two of their smaller vessels had already lost their perfect symmetry, with large sections of crystal either missing or darkened. The Dominion ships pressed their advantage, moving into a formation that would soon surround the Hegemony fleet. The Hegemony shields cannot withstand prolonged exposure to phase-shift weapons, Leartav explained, a note of fear entering their musical voice. Once the fleet is eliminated, the Dominion will turn on your vessels. Elena considered this information, then made a decision. Open a channel to both flagships. When the connection was established, showing both Vexthar and the Dominion commander in split screen, Elena spoke clearly and confidently. This is Captain Rise of the Human Expedition Fleet. We have no quarrel with either of your species, but we won't stand by and watch a massacre. I propose a temporary ceasefire so we can discuss terms. Humans do not dictate terms to the Dominion, the six-eyed alien snarled. The Hegemony does not require primitive assistance, Vexthar added, though his vessel shuddered visibly as it took another hit. Elena sighed. Well, I tried diplomacy. Malik, activate the graviton disruptors. The chief engineer grinned and pressed a sequence on his console. Never thought we'd get to test these in actual combat. Disruptors online, Captain. Target the space between the fleets. Minimum intensity, Elena ordered. Let's give them a demonstration. From the 12 human vessels, invisible waves of gravitational distortion rippled outward, precisely calibrated to interfere with the propulsion and weapons systems of both alien fleets without causing permanent damage. The effect was immediate. The Dominion ship's weapons suddenly fired at significantly reduced power, while the Hegemony vessel's perfect formation wavered as their navigation systems struggled to compensate. What technology is this? Leartav demanded, staring at the view screen in disbelief. Just a little something we cooked up after studying some anomalies near a pulsar, Malik explained casually. Temporary disruption of gravitational coherence. Doesn't cause any lasting damage, but it sure makes it hard to aim. The view screen showed both fleet commanders looking equally shocked. Elena opened the channel again. Now that I have your attention, let's talk. Or we can see what happens when we turn up the intensity on our disruptors. After a tense moment, both commanders grudgingly agreed to a temporary ceasefire. Within the hour, representatives from both fleets had joined the alien delegation already aboard the Audacity, crowding the ship's conference room with beings who, until recently, had been trying to destroy each other. "This is irregular," Vexthar stated, keeping as much distance as possible from the Dominion representatives. "The hegemony does not negotiate with chaos bringers. The Dominion does not recognize the authority of crystal worshippers," snarled the Dominion commander who had introduced himself as war leader Krazar. "And humans don't particularly care about your ancient grudges," Alina interjected firmly. "What we do care about is unnecessary bloodshed and threats to peaceful exploration." She activated the table's holographic display, showing a map of the sector. "From what I understand, both of your civilizations are claiming this region of space. The problem is, neither of you actually has any permanent settlements or resource operations here yet. You're fighting over unclaimed territory. The hegemony's perfect expansion follows precise mathematical progression," Vexthar explained. "This sector is the next logical addition. The Dominion claims by right of superior strength," Krazar countered. "We will consume all in our path." Alina suppressed an eye roll. "Here's a novel concept. What if neither of you claimed exclusive rights to the entire sector? Space is big. Really big. There's room for everyone if you're willing to establish actual borders and respect them." Both alien leaders began speaking simultaneously, their voices rising as they listed historical precedents and cultural imperatives that made sharing impossible. Alina let them continue for a few minutes before holding up her hand. "Enough. While you've been arguing, my science officer has been analyzing the system data. Lieutenant, show them what you found." Park activated a secondary display, showing detailed scans of several planets within the system. "This sector contains unusual concentrations of rare elements, particularly in the asteroid belts around the 4th and 7th planets. What's more interesting is that these elements appear to form complementary compounds." "Explain," demanded Vexthar. "The resources that would be most valuable to the hegemony, based on your ship compositions, are concentrated in this region." Park indicated an area on the display. "While the materials that would benefit the Dominion's technology are primarily located here, on the opposite side of the system." "You see," Alina said, looking between the two alien leaders. "The system itself seems to have naturally divided the resources in a way that would benefit you both without requiring direct competition." The aliens studied the data, their expressions unreadable to human eyes, but their body language suggesting intense calculation. "This could be acceptable," Vexthar finally admitted, "if precise boundaries were established. The Dominion requires unrestricted access to the 7th planet's outer belt," Krazar added. "Our sacred hunting grounds require specific minerals found there." "Sacred hunting grounds?" Alina asked, surprised. Krazar's mandibles clicked in what might have been embarrassment. "The Dominion warrior caste must prove themselves in ritual combat against the space-dwelling predators that inhabit the radiation zones of such belts." Alina exchanged a glance with Commander Chen, who shrugged slightly. "Cultural practices aside, it sounds like we're making progress. Let's establish preliminary boundaries and resource-sharing protocols." As the negotiations continued, Alina noticed Lirtev studying the human crew with increasing intensity. During a brief recess, the assessment officer approached her privately. "Your species defies categorization," Lirtev stated. "You appear technologically inconsistent, yet you possess innovations neither the hegemony nor the Dominion has achieved. You lack proper hierarchical structure, yet function efficiently. You propose cooperation where history indicates conflict is inevitable." Alina smiled. "That's humanity in a nutshell. We're messy, contradictory, and unpredictable. We build on what works and discard what doesn't, without worrying too much about perfect systems or grand theories." "But how do you progress without optimization?" Lirtev seemed genuinely puzzled. "We optimize for adaptability rather than perfection," Alina explained. "Earth has thrown everything imaginable at us. Natural disasters, climate shifts, resource limitations, our own self-destructive tendencies. The species that survive aren't the strongest or most intelligent, but the most adaptable to change. Liurtav was silent for a long moment. The hegemony has spent 10,000 cycles perfecting our civilization. We have eliminated inefficiency, standardized production, optimized resource allocation. Yet your primitive-appearing vessels neutralized our tractor technology and developed gravitational manipulation that neither we nor the Dominion has mastered. Different approaches lead to different innovations, Alina said. That's why diversity and even a bit of chaos can be valuable. They lead to unexpected solutions. By the end of the marathon negotiation session, both alien civilizations had reluctantly agreed to a territorial division of the sector with specific resource-sharing protocols. More surprisingly, they had also agreed to establish a neutral zone around the system's habitable fifth planet, where representatives from all three species could establish a diplomatic outpost. As the alien delegations prepared to return to their respective vessels, High Commander Vexthar approached Alina one final time. The hegemony has never encountered a species quite like humans, the alien admitted. Your methods are chaotic, your technology inconsistent, your hierarchy unclear, yet you have achieved results that challenge our understanding. We get that a lot, Alina replied with a smile. Maybe perfect order isn't the only path to advancement. Perhaps, Vexthar conceded, the hegemony will recategorize humans as anomalous allies rather than potential subjects. We will inform the High Council of this unprecedented classification. I'll take that as a compliment, Alina said, extending her hand in the human gesture of agreement. After a moment's hesitation, Vexthar extended a scaled appendage and carefully mimicked the handshake. As the alien delegations departed and the Pathfinder Division prepared to continue its exploration mission, Commander Chen joined Alina on the observation deck, watching the crystalline and barred ships maneuvering to their respective sides of the system. So, he said, in one day we've managed to avoid being subjugated by a perfectionist empire, prevented an interstellar war, negotiated a three-way resource-sharing agreement, and established humanity's first official diplomatic outpost in Andromeda. Not bad for a primitive species with haphazard ships. Alina laughed. Just wait until they get to know us better. Today they saw our diplomatic side. Tomorrow they might experience human creativity, human curiosity, human stubbornness. Heaven help the galaxy, Chen replied with a grin. The galaxy will manage, Alina said, watching as stars streaked past the viewport. It's big enough for all of us, the perfect and the imperfect, the orderly and the chaotic. That's what makes it worth exploring.